Hi, I'm Shelly Carson, and I'm the area manager for First American Home Warranty.
Thanks for joining us, Shelly. I'll start off with the first question. How do you motivate your employees?
Honestly, most of them are self-starters and they motivate themselves, but I think you lead by example, and I think that's what they see. Hard work, driven, consistent, persistent. I think when they see you model those behaviors, it's easy for them to model them as well.
Yes, love that. Okay, what advice would you give to people who want to be a manager?
I think really honestly, I don't see it as manager. I see it more of leader. I don't feel like I manage people or I'm in management. I see it more of a leadership opportunity because it's giving me the opportunity to lead others through service and providing a service to others. And I think that's, to me, that's the advice I would take is you're not managing people, you're leading them. And it's a team effort. It's not an individual effort.
I love that. Can you name a specific method you use to help your employees grow in a skill set or advance within their career?
I think, honestly, as long as you're learning, you're growing. When we stop learning, we stop growing. And so I think the thing that I find the most helpful is every opportunity you have to learn, you take advantage of. So providing those opportunities are key. Sometimes people don't know where to look and they don't know even a skill set that they may need or may not realize. So learning from experience and learning through my own personal work experience, providing those opportunities to them are what I find the most beneficial.
Of course. What are the most important attributes of a successful leader?
I think the ability to listen. I think the ability to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Once you become in management or leadership, you can never forget that you were once in that position of sales or in that position of being, a representative for the company, because we all started there, or the majority of us. And I think, honestly, looking back, I think that's one thing that I've always appreciated about my really good leaders are their ability to not forget where they came from and also remember where they're going, because it provides a path for the rest of us to follow.
How do you delegate tasks to your team without overloading your top performers?
I think that can be hard because usually your top performers are very driven, already very detail oriented. They're already pushing themselves to reach success. So I think delegating tasks to them is also a way to learn. So in a way, I don't see it as overwhelming them because I believe it's giving them an opportunity. So I would never say delegating a task. I would say I'm offering them an opportunity. I think it's all in the wording as well because, again, we're a team. We're not an individual effort.
Love it. What resource have you found particularly helpful in your career as a leader or manager? This could be like a book, podcast, anything like that.
Honestly, I find it very beneficial to listen to others that have been in leadership positions, and whether that's a podcast or whether it's on the radio or whether it's reading their books, there's a lot on leadership, and I think it's finding the leadership that you fit well with. I tend to look at my leadership as servant leadership because it's coming from the heart, and that's how I help others. So I found people like John Maxwell, John Gordon, Craig Groeschel even. I found their kind of leadership style is what I identify with. And so those are the people I've chosen to listen to along the way. And I'm always open to finding new people. And it's something I often ask and often get from other people.
Awesome. Okay. What character traits do you find most beneficial in a leader or a team member?
I think it's the same for both, honestly, because again, we're a team. I think the ability to listen is huge, no matter whether you're a team member or in leadership. And I think that's hard. That's a lesson that a lot of us have to learn because it's really easy to be so worried about what we're going to say that sometimes we don't take the time to sit back and listen. I think patience, and that's also very hard for most salespeople, but there's a lot to be learned in the patience because we're seeking to help others and we're seeking to understand what they need. And sometimes if we're in too much of a hurry, we don't take the time to stop and find out what they really need, not what we want to sell them. And I think the ability to be a self-starter, to have initiative, to be driven, it's not always fun. And sometimes you have to be really disciplined in doing the things that lead you to success. And sometimes those things aren't always fun. So I think that's huge too.
What is a lesson you learned later on in your career you wish you would have known when you first started?
Well, lots of them. Back to this whole being disciplined and doing those things that we don't necessarily want to do, learning to do those first in the day and getting those out of the way are so key and huge, because once you've tackled those, the day is yours to make. And those are things that typically have to be done, and they're not always fun, again, but getting those done and out of the way, and not taking it personal in sales, because a rejection or a no is not always a no, and it's not always personal. They just may not need the product at the time, or they may not need that service. And that's something that takes a while to learn. And I wish I had learned that right up front, because it's really hard not to get disheartened or upset over a rejection. And then also learning that no doesn't necessarily always mean no, because it may not be right now, but it may be later. And so staying in touch with people and keeping that relationship going, whether you have sold them something or not, ultimately benefits in the long run so much.
Awesome. How has your management style changed since you first became a leader in your organization?
Patience. I think when I was younger, it was a lot easier to get fired up over things and to react instead of responding. And I think I've learned as I've gotten older to take the time to respond. When we're quick to do something, we tend to react. But when you slow down and take the time to listen, it's a lot easier to respond. And we get a lot better outcomes out of responding than reacting. And that's what I think I've learned the most. And hard work is always hard work, and it will never be replaced. But again, patience, because it ultimately all pays off if you continue to work in a persistent and a consistent way.
I like that. Consistent and persistent. Okay, and last question. What is the biggest challenge you've experienced after becoming a manager, and how did you handle it?
I think what's hard sometimes to get used to is that not everyone works the way you do. Not everyone gets things done the way you do, or processes, or responds, or communicates. It's learning to work within those different styles. It's not always easy. And I find myself sometimes back to the patience piece, wanting things quick and wanting them now. And if I can get it and I understand it, why can't they? And that's not always fair, because it's really easy to look at something from the outside and say, I don't get why they're not getting it. But everyone processes and thinks things differently. So that's been the biggest challenge, and will always probably be a little bit of a challenge continually, because again, they don't work the way we do. So that's the biggest one, and it's the hardest one.
Yeah, well, I totally understand that. Okay, Shelly, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Bye.